Well, hello everyone, and thanks for tuning in. It's so good to see you. Welcome back. Say, we got a really good one for you today. We're going to continue the theme of records that are essential for your record collection. Basically, a classic rock records. That's traditionally what a lot of my collection is the old classic rock stuff. Timeless records that are going to go down for years and years to come as still essential records in your record collection. And first of all, we've got the Beatles. You know, this is Abbey Road. I think this is one of their best. This is the White Album. You can go on and on because there's so many great Beatles records, but I think for the most part, this is probably one of their most popular records, and one that if you don't have any Beatles in your Beatle collection, in your record collection, have a listen to it and see if this is something you want to include in your record collection. Of course, another thing that I want to thank everybody that put a like on the video and that people that left comments, because this is how I learned about what people would like in the video. I had some, of course, a lot of regular folks. Thanks everybody for chatting. I really enjoy that. And then we got some other folks that are new that are saying, you know what? I just started collecting records here a while ago and I really enjoyed your video, and I like the fact that you were talking about which record pressings were better than other ones. So I'm going to continue doing that. Like today, this is the Pro Use series from Toshiba EMI out of Japan. This is like a half-speed mastered version of this record, which is a really high fidelity. Now, these records are kind of hard to get nowadays, and if you can find them, they're quite expensive. But back in the 80s, when I was buying these, you know, I bought this out of a used record store. I probably paid $20 for it, something like that, because I wasn't spending a lot of money. Records didn't cost what they do today. You never went to a record store and there was a record in there for $100. It wasn't a thing. And even if it was a record like for $50, you know, that was a big deal. And when the internet came along, a lot of those $50 records went down to $10 records. So, and another thing that came along with the internet was records that were so rare. Now you could go in the world, you know, like on eBay, and you could find those records, and the prices of some of that really rare stuff went down. But here with the Renaissance, everything's gone up again. So, Beatles Abbey Road, I think, my number one recommendation for today. And so, if you remember last week, we started out with Led Zeppelin, and then we started out today with the Beatles, and then another group that's very popular is, of course, Pink Floyd. And this is Dark Side of the Moon, which I think is probably their most popular record. And again, we have what's called the Pro Use series on this record. And I don't know, maybe there's like 10 titles that they did in this Pro Use series. I've had a few of the other ones, and you know, they're not popular. They're just kind of more Japanese oriented type things, or you know, some kind of jazz record. But this is another one that's really, really good. I compared this to the Mo-Fi, and this was so much better than the Mobile Fidelity record. Of course, there is now I think it's around 2012 or so, Kevin Gray did the 30th anniversary. It's supposed to be better than this, which I didn't have the opportunity back in the day. I missed out on getting one. And of course, today again, they're very, very expensive. So if you can get any of the early pressings of this record, they all sound really good. They are. This is a really good sounding record. One of those records makes your stereo sound great. And if you're not familiar with this, you need to have a listen to it. Next we have Paranoid from Black Sabbath. Another one of those records I can remember when my kids and boys get to be about a certain age, around 12, 13 years old. They all know about Iron Man. They've all discovered that song. And that is on this LP right here, there's a lot of, it's from side A and side B. The early Black Sabbath stuff is some stuff that gets played on my turntable more than other things. And this is one of those records. And this is one of the earlier, it's made in the UK, It's on the Castle label, and it has really good, I think it has really good sound on it. And again, it comes on a nice gatefold cover. It's a nice record. A record that, if you're not familiar with, you might want to listen to. Now here's another band, The Doors. And this, of course, is L.A. Woman. This is an Analog Productions release. This is done by Chad Kassem over there at Acoustic Sounds. About every record that Chad makes is the best ever. And this would include all these records that he put out here. Probably it's about 10 years ago now that he put these out. They're 2 LPs at 45 RPM. And this is one of those records that when I want to impress people, I put this on. I put, Riders on the Storm. You got side 4 is The Wasp, which is, Texas Radio and the Big Beat, really a classic song. And then going Riders on the Storm on side 4 of this record. It sounds so phenomenal. And this was done by Doug Sachs, remastered by Doug Sachs at the Mastering Lab. And Chad Kassem now, Doug has passed away, and Chad Kassem bought his mastering lab. He bought the whole studio, and he moved it to Kansas, and he's had it all rebuilt. And so Chad has actually got a super deluxe mastering studio that he can actually make records over there. And he was making some really good blues records from all those old blues masters, which now, as of today, they're all basically too elderly to go and make records anymore. And so he hasn't really done anything in that studio, but he can make a world-class record. Chad can, over in Kansas. And this is records that he made. He got the original, what he does, he gets the original master tape, and he remasters the record. Just like they did at the original, when they made the OG. People talk about, I want the OG, I want the original recording. When it came out in 1970, I want that one. I want that original pressing. Well, all those pressings get so expensive that folks like Chad go back and they get the original master tape again, and then they'll get somebody like Kevin Gray, who is one of the best mastering engineers we have today, and he'll remaster the record, and then they press it at RTI or at Quality Records, and they put them on even better quality jackets, and you have an even better record than you did originally. So this is one of these, what you call audiophile records, an audiophile remaster, which is even better than the original pressing ever was. So if you're not familiar with that record, it's one you need to get a hold of. Here's Elton John. This is Yellow Brick Road. And this is one of the few records that actually is like a trifold. A little book in there, where it actually folds out into 3. But it is still a double record. And this is the Japanese pressing, and so we got a little book in here. And what these books are, mostly from the Japanese records, is it's a lot of Japanese writing inside here. And it describes what's going on with the record, and it's got the lyrics to the records. And usually they'll have both, this is all Japanese here, but a lot of times, especially with the newer ones, they would have a Japanese and English lyrics. But this is an older record, so it's just got the Japanese lyrics on it. And this is the OG from Japan, this title here. This is when you buy Japanese records, it's very important to get the original. They're going to have the best sound on them. The reissues, they still sound really good, but they're a little bit bass shy and they might be a little bit bright. But the originals are, in my opinion, they're always superior to most of the, not always of course, but for the most part, they're always superior to the pressings of the USA or Canada. Now, a lot of the bands that I like are from the UK. So if you can get those original UK presses, those are always really good, and a lot of times superior to these Japanese presses. But back when I was collecting those records, those were always like a record like this, whatever. If it was an original pressing and it was a UK press, it would be $100 or more record. But I could go to Japan, I could get this for like $29, and it sounds spectacular. But this record now, we're going to talk about Elton John, Yellow Brick Road. This is, I think, one of his best records of all time, and it's got so many great hits on it. And even the original press, it was on a black rainbow MCA label. The sound was phenomenal. I remember going to a hi-fi shop, and they were using this record to demonstrate stereo equipment because it just sounded so good. So I'm sure most of you folks out there that are watching the video have got this record. If you don't know it and you're not familiar, have a listen. I'm sure you're going to enjoy this record. It's really, really good record. And then we have Van Morrison. This is Moondance. And you can see it's got that RTI sticker on here. And again, this was remastered by Kevin Gray over at Acoustic with Steve Hoffman. Comes on a nice gatefold jacket. Nice, big, thick. Better than the original Warner Brother ever was in the quality of the jacket and the quality of the music on the record. This is so superior to the original Warner Brother in every way. This is another example of a remaster done by audiophile mastering engineers and pressed at one of the superior record plants in the entire world and plated and pressed there, and all the stages of getting the original master tape from Warner Brothers and then remastered by Kevin Gray and then plated and pressed at RTI. You're using all the top people in the world to do this, and you end up with a superior product. And of course, Van Morrison now, Moondance, this is probably one of his most accessible recordings, and as well as probably one of his more popular recordings on here. Very good record. One of my favorite Van Morrison records. Okay, we're going to actually, at some point, we're going to get to David Bowie because he's one of my favorites. And this is, of course, regarded probably his best work, Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars. And this is on the 40th anniversary heavyweight vinyl. And this is considered probably the highest res version of this record you can get. Now, MoFi does have a version of this record, and there is a Japanese pressing of it. I was never able to afford those records. They were always pretty expensive. And for today's standards, it's not so bad, but they were always, like $100, or even the Japanese press of this record is always over $200, the original one now. And that MoFi was always around $80, $90, $100. So I never purchased it, but when this 40th anniversary came out, I was buying a lot of reissues. I bought this, and the sound on it is really good. And the folks that have those other records say that this is superior to that. So this 40th anniversary, if you seek it out, is a really good sounding record. And of course, David Bowie now, if you're not familiar with that, have a listen to this record. I'm sure you're going to really enjoy it. And I think it's a must-have for every serious record collector that's out there that wants to have good music in their libraries. Here we go. Here's Boston. And again, this is on a reissue. This is a gatefold. And this was done by a company called Friday Music. And again, Kevin Gray was helping Joe Rugoso to remaster these records. And this is a really good, one of the good sounding. I have a video that talks about Friday Music, Are They Any Good? And I talk about the different pressings that I own that really do sound good. And I also talk about some of them that don't sound so good. This is one of the standouts here. Because for years I used to have the CBS half-speed master of this record. And then I got an original Japanese press, which was better than the CBS one. And then not soon after, I bought this. And this was, in every way, as good as the Japanese press, much better than that half-speed one. One of the things I didn't like about the half-speed, it was bright. And it was kind of annoyingly bright, to where, you know, it just didn't have didn't have good fidelity, basically. It had a lot of information, a lot of brightness, a lot of, you know, it music on it, but it was fatiguing to listen to. This is what happens with those extra bright stuff. It's just hard on your ears, and it just gets fatiguing to listen to. It's not relaxing in any way, like something like this is. So the reason I ended up with this one is I thought overall it had all the detail and all the great resolution of the Japanese first edition, but it had a little bit better bass. So I stuck with this one. Again, this is the Friday Music version of this record. Boston, their first record. Really, really good. Really, really enjoyed it. It's one of those standout records. Side A, every song's great. Side B, it doesn't have weak stuff on here. Really, really good standout. And now we have Nevermind. This is the ORG pressing that came out. Again, another remaster by Bernie Grunman. He's another one of those really good recording mastering engineers. And he redid this record. The original recording group, they're the ones that produced it. And the sound on this one, now I had the original pressing. I bought it back when it came out, and I think it was $12.95 I paid for the original. And then when this one came out, I got this, and this was, to me, better than the OG was. And it just is just more of a hi-fi product, so I kept this one, and I sold the original. Yeah, I got a little extra cash for that one, but Nevermind by Nirvana, this record right here, this is probably one of the best, you know, of that era, the grunge records. This is one of the best ones there is. And so I would recommend everybody own this record. If you don't have it, have a listen to it and see if you like it. I think you probably would. Roxy Music, Avalon. Again, one of my favorite records. Such a good record. And it brings back so many great memories that I've had when this record was out. Again, now, a lot of these records, if you go get the original pressings of them, they really do have good sound on them. But since it's one of my favorite records, I sought out maybe an even little bit better sounding version, which is the Japanese original press. And again, Avalon by Roxy Music. Everybody that hears this record loves it. Now, they don't like all the Roxy Music stuff, but this one here is very accessible, and it appeals, the music on it appeals to a wide range of folks. So if you're not familiar with Roxy Music or this record, have a listen, see if you like it. I'm sure you will. And now that's going to conclude the video for today. I'd like to thank everybody for liking and commenting on the last video. Really appreciate that. Like talking to everybody. And of course, when you do put the little like on there, it pushes the video out faster so more people can see it. And thanks so much for watching. Bye for now.